are refusing to charge her. She has also said if they go after any woman for simply calling a man, I'll repeat that woman's words and they can charge us both at once.
To soak in the wind. Many in the audience feel Baggs has an unfair advantage on the road to victory.
The irony, of course, is that this will put it to the top of the bestseller list.
The question we must address is why are we affirming the mental confusion of this boy and putting the safety of women in jeopardy by allowing mentally confused men to use the women's spaces?
Now, she has been a victim of cancel culture. There have been people calling for her publisher to drop her.
J.K. Rowling has been tweeting derogatory comments about trans people for some months now.
Hello and welcome, and today we are looking at that rather sensitive issue of transgender identity. If you have X or Facebook, you cannot have failed but to notice J.K. Rowling has been quite outspoken on this topic. She believes that transgender issues can impact women's rights. For example, she opposes transgender women using women-only areas. She's also criticised Scotland's recent gender recognition law, which insists that we use the correct pronouns for transgender men and women. J.K. Rowling has been accused of being transphobic, and there have been calls for people to boycott the Harry Potter series of films, books and video games. Becky Lomax, what are the issues here?
Well, it's quite simple really. I stand with J.K. Rowling on this matter. It's absurd that expressing basic truths about biological sex can now be deemed illegal. This isn't about transphobia, it's about protecting free speech and acknowledging scientific facts. But on the other hand, the trans community are constantly pushing for a whole raft of additional rights which, if adopted, impact upon the lives of people who have no gender challenges.
Excuse me, what are you doing in the women's bathroom?
I'm sorry?
What are you doing in the women's bathroom?
I'm peeing.
Okay, but you're a man.
No.
Yes, you are. You are clearly a man, and you were just in the women's bathroom. Do you know how much money I pay for this school, and now there's a man in my bathroom?
Well, you should talk to the administration.
Oh, I definitely will.
Good.
When it comes to transgender women using women's toilets and changing room facilities, a 2023 Ipsos poll found that only 40% of people in Britain believe transgender people should be allowed to use single-sex facilities such as public toilets that correspond to the gender they identify with.
How many people are transgender?
According to USA Facts, in the US, the percentage of transgender individuals currently stands at 1.03%. In the UK, according to a 2021 census, in answer to the question, is the gender you identify with the same as your sex registered at birth? 0.5% of the respondents answered no.
Well, biological facts are one thing, but how a person feels is another. For example, if you feel that you are a man trapped inside a woman's body, well, that's heartbreaking, isn't it? Shouldn't society as a whole feel more empathy or be more sympathetic towards people in this kind of situation?
Of course. And in general, in Western society, we are accepting. At the end of the day, we are all people, and we should all accept everyone's right to be whatever gender they may wish to have. It's not the same in every country around the world, but certainly in the US, UK and EU, there are already numerous laws in place to protect people from discrimination on the basis of their gender.
But the UK government doesn't recognise the trans community, does it?
It does. The Gender Recognition Act 2004 enables a person to change the sex recorded on their birth certificate, either from male to female or vice versa, but it makes no provision for the recognition of any other gender. The term trans can have a wider meaning, but for example, non-binary genders are not recognised in UK law. But according to a 2023 statement by the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, Human rights are universal and should apply equally to all people. Quote, "We are fundamentally opposed to all forms of discrimination and work to uphold the rights and freedoms of lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender, LGBT+, people in all circumstances."
You mentioned that one of the issues is free speech. Can you give an example of how that might be affected?
Imagine this. In places like Scotland, certain speech about gender identity is now classified as hate or discrimination. It's like putting a muzzle on free expression. People might hesitate to speak their minds or be continuously tripping up on pronoun use. If regulations force specific pronouns for transgender individuals, it's like handcuffing freedom of speech, especially for those with religious or philosophical objections. So, instead of he or she, some might prefer they. Or think about a person who transitioned from male to female wanting to be addressed as she. It's a hot topic sparking debates and discussions everywhere.
K Rowling has received criticism and a backlash for her views on transgender issues. And just recently she criticised the inclusion of 5 transgender players in Australia's Flying Bats football team. What's wrong with transgender players playing sports games?
The controversy comes in terms of unfair advantage. I think few could have any objection to someone who transitioned from a woman to a man, playing in a men's team. But the Flying Bats team won the final of the Beryl Ackroyd Cup 4-0 after a dominant run. And this sparked outrage from football fans and led to 20 female players quitting one team in protest.
What about the Olympics?
The Olympic Committee has agreed to allow the ruling bodies of each country to decide if the inclusion of a trans athlete in their team is fair. So, as an example, in the US, transgender women are now barred from playing in global netball competitions by World Netball. This new policy aims to ensure fair participation. This decision coincides with the countdown to the Paris Olympics.
And how are different ruling bodies managing this?
Well, in the case of American swimmer, Leah Thomas. She has not swum in a women's race since World Aquatics introduced new rules in 2022, which prohibit anyone who has undergone any part of male puberty from the female category. Before then, transgender women were able to compete if they lowered their testosterone levels.
Becky, what is the future for transgender athletes?
Here's the harsh truth. Transgender women athletes will never, I repeat never, compete in women's games without stirring up a storm of controversy and objection. Look at what's happening now across all sports. They have an unfair advantage. And let's not forget, the inevitable introduction of hormone therapy, steroids, and a whole cocktail of drugs into the sporting arena. Is that right? Sporting authorities are on a mission to eradicate these substances from the playing field. So, the sooner humanity just faces these facts, the better.
But there must be a solution.
Transgender people want recognition, right? Well, why not grant transgender athletes the recognition they seek in its entirety? Let's imagine a world where new competitions bloom within the Olympic arena, tailored specifically for transgender athletes. Imagine the excitement of woman-to-man and man-to-woman competitions, each overseen and organized by the very individuals they represent. And then picture this, cascading down to grassroots levels, where these competitions seed and flourish, much like the journey of women's football, rugby, and the Paralympic movement.
But surely this has already been tried. In Berlin in 2023, the World Aquatics put on a race for transgender swimmers, but it had to be cancelled because nobody applied to enter.
Yes, you're right. Well, you tell me this. If a zebra wanted to take part in a horse race, would that raise any difficulties for the organizers? And if the zebra then stated that, though it looked like a zebra, it was really a racehorse, but just needed some performance-enhancing drugs in order to feel like a real thoroughbred. And so the organizers relent and allow the zebra to run. And, against all odds, the zebra comes to win every race it takes part in. Wouldn't that be a problem? Would there ever come a time when that wasn't a problem?
So it seems that the intelligent solution is a race for zebras.
Absolutely. If I could just mention, a YouGov poll conducted in the UK in 2022 found that the public are strongly opposed to trans women athletes participating in women's sporting events, by 61% versus just 16% who are supportive.
Well, that brings us to the end. Our next topical discussion is right here. See you next time.